Is it now? Okay. Hey guys, this is Sadie from Remote Medical Jobs and my Facebook groups, Remote Nursing Jobs and Remote NP and PA Jobs. And effective today, the Remote Nurse, which is my new name, and it's cool. So today I am interviewing Amanda Guarniere. She is the owner of the Résumé RX, which is obviously a resume service. But what makes Amanda unique is that she's also a nurse practitioner. So she has the clinical side, and she also has, from what I hear and stalk, she has a little bit of leadership and experience going through resumes as well. So I think she's like the perfect person for us to have both sides and really kind of an expertise in this. So Amanda, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and just kind of what services you offer, and then
Sure.
we will talk about resumes a little bit and then do a little demo of what services you offer.
Yeah, sounds good. So, hey everybody, I'm Amanda. I've been a nurse practitioner since 2011, and I work primarily in emergency medicine clinically. That's kind of my specialty, though. When I went to school, I studied adult and women's health. But I had some on-the-job training and eventually got into emergency medicine, where I've been for the past several years. And I'm also a mom of 3 little girls. And a few years ago, after my twins were born, I was looking for a way to kind of reduce my clinical hours. And long story short, the Résumé RX was born, and shortly after my twins. And so it's basically been my opportunity to provide a service and education for nurses to help them get their dream jobs, but kind of in the process, it helped me get my dream job because I was able to reduce my clinical hours. So a few months after I started the business, I was able to, I also concurrently paid off my loans, and I dropped my clinical hours in half. So I went from a 40-hour overnight NP in the ED to a 20-hour overnight NP in the ED. And so I did that for a few years. And then in the past year, my situation has changed again. We moved to a new state. I had another baby. And now the Résumé RX is actually like my primary focus. And I am I'm like returning from my maternity leave and starting a new clinical job in the ED, but just per diem. So like 3 to 4 shifts a month, which is right now in the season of life is just my, like I just want to keep my toes in right now. And then, when life changes and is a little bit less hectic, maybe I'll ramp up the clinical side of things. But to be honest, I'm loving this side of things, as a small business owner as well. So, so that's my story.
Awesome. Okay, so just kind of maybe like a quick overview of what services you offer, and then we'll kind of talk about.
Yeah. So when I first started, I was doing pretty much exclusively like custom resume writing. So like I'd send you a questionnaire, you'd send it back, and I would write your new resume, which is great. And I still do that, a small percentage. But what I learned was that it's really valuable to be able to do this yourself, because it kind of puts you in the driver's seat of your career, and you're not like waiting on somebody else to write your resume and hoping that they capture, the essence of you and all that. So really my primary focus is to teach other nurses how to write their own resumes and navigate this on their own. So my kind of number one service or thing that I offer from a paid perspective are my resume templates, which are super popular. And it's basically kind of a prompted document that we'll go through later that you basically plug your own information into. And then surrounding that, I have different kind of trainings and guides and word for word scripts that you can steal to help you kind of inspire you to write your cover letter and all the different pieces of these professional documents, so that you're not spending hours Googling nurse resume examples, which we've all done, right?
It's like from 2003 and objective, like,
right,
I want a nursing job, like, don't do that. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so I guess the most pressing thing on my group, always people are just saying they don't know what to do with their resume, and they don't really understand why it's important to update it, like, other than just copying and pasting your job description on there. And so just maybe like, why is it pertinent, especially like for my group, they're applying to remote jobs, which are so popular. there's like hundreds and thousands of people applying to every job. So just why, in perspective to that, why is it so important to have a quality resume that is up to date with today?
Yeah, definitely. So, especially when you're applying for a remote job, if you're applying for an in-person job, the point of your resume is really to land the interview, right? But sometimes when we're in fields where there's a higher demand, like remote jobs, or, the other element to remote jobs is that you kind of have to sell yourself a little bit more because they're taking a chance on someone that they can't or won't be meeting in person.
Yeah.
There'll likely be hopefully like a video interview as part of the process, but you really have to sell yourself a little bit more. And what you really want to do is make sure that your documents are suiting or fitting the ideal persona that they have for the role. And that's really easy to do if you know what their ideal person for the job is. And the way to do that is to, explore, research the company, dissect the job description, and then what you want to do is highlight the aspects of yourself and your career that match the job description so that when someone's reading your resume, they're mentally kind of hitting all these check boxes. Oh yeah, we want someone who does this, this, and this. And when you've had lots of experience, it's easy to just create a generic resume that says, I was a nurse here, I did this, I did that. But unless you're kind of extrapolating those pieces that they want for this specific job and highlighting those, they're just going to see kind of a generic nurse resume and not realize that, you're the ideal person for the job.
Yeah, you're special.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah, I think it's really important too, like, because you're right, some people will just have one resume. I was a nurse, I did all these nursing skills that every other nurse does, and then blast it out to 100 people. And it's like, that's a waste of your time, really, unless you're very lucky and it's like meant to be. But it's like, it's not effective because they see that, and it's not only does it come off like, oh, this is a canned resume, like they just sent this out, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't match what they're looking for. And the point of a resume is to lure like them in, it's not really like for you.
No,
So,
you're exactly right. I agree.
That's kind of what I'm saying. So,
and the tricky thing about nursing is that a lot of us have the exact same credentials.
yes.
Like for the most part, all nurses have their RN, right? A big chunk have their BSN, a smaller portion will have kind of specific certifications. So, that's a way to set yourself apart. But when you have the same credentials as someone else, you need to go that extra step because chances are you're going to have some sort of similar career path that unless you highlight how and why you're different, you're going to just look the same.
And like if you don't have that experience now, it's like also looking at the jobs you want and trying to get that experience because you can't make it up, you can't lie, and or just stuff you've done on the side, like an extra duty you took or something like that can also obviously be put on your resume. And hopefully it aligns with something they're looking for too. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like a lot of us have those things, but if you're not like checking in with yourself on a regular basis while you're in a steady job, you're going to forget. You're going to forget the volunteer project that your unit did, 3 years ago. You're going to forget the committee where you were asked to present on, whatever, so you kind of have to get into a groove of keeping track of the things that you do so that when it comes time to really showcase your achievements and accomplishments, you have something to put down, because I can guarantee that pretty much everybody has something to put down. It's just, whether you can remember what that was and whether it, is enough to kind of make yourself stand out.
Okay, so and then the second thing I get a lot is like cover letters, and a lot of people think that it's a waste of time because nobody cares about the cover letter. But I disagree with that. Like, I don't think it's essential, but if you're among 100 people, they pick 10 resumes and one person has a cover letter, like, of course they're going to probably read it, and that's going to make you stand out. So it might not be essential, but it's really helpful. So like, do you agree with that? Or
I think that cover letters are great. If a job asks for it, you should absolutely be sending one. And the thing is, you never know which like, let's say someone's going to read just one document. You don't know which one they're going to read first, and they might pick your cover letter first. So you want it to stand on its own because they may not also read your resume. Like they may make their decision based on the cover letter. Either, yes,
true.
I'm going to interview this person, or yes, I'll read their resume too, or no, thank you, on to the next one. So I think that it's important to include, and I do have a blog post and a free guide on my website with some frameworks for cover letters and some word for word scripts, depending on where you're at. So basically, you know, I put some frameworks together then with some brackets, like, so that you can insert the applicable things. But I think that it's really important to include some sort of personality. And the way I usually do that is through some sort of story or storytelling. So you don't have to go into like this big narrative, but you could say, you know, since before I was a nurse, I was inspired by, you know, whatever experience to enter the healthcare field. Or in my last position on whatever floor, I had this type of patient experience, which made me realize that I actually really want to focus on, you know, this population or whatever. So making it like not to whom it may concern, I am responding in.
I am guilty of that. I'm like, delete.
Right?
Well, I don't know. But yeah, I've heard all the same rules everyone else has. To whom it may concern. I'm like, this is terrible. Like, who wants to read that?
Yeah. And so, you know, you can spend all your time Googling nurse cover letters as well, and you'll come up with these kind of like boring, stuffy things that are in like business speak that nobody wants to read and isn't really telling me anything about you. And kind of as a side note, like a lot of remote jobs or a lot of jobs in general, sometimes if you are applying via email, you can write a cover email. So you don't need to write like an email and then attach a cover letter and a resume. You can actually just like write your cover letter message in the email and then attach the resume. Otherwise, you're asking people to read way too many things, and this is kind of like the path of least resistance.
That's true. Okay, and then the third thing, which honestly is probably the most frequently asked about, is the ATS system, the Applicant Tracking System. Oh, and like what that is and how you can kind of highlight yourself in a better way to be able to pull into that instead of rejected when you're qualified, but you're using wrong language or what. Yeah,
so the ATS is kind of like everybody's big, scary, like monster under the bed, I think. So what it is briefly is it's a computer software that will pre-screen and read resumes and kind of filter out who they decide match the job description, so that the top certain percentage, depending on how many applicants there are, they'll just kind of deliver that top percentage to the hiring decision makers. So the way they do that is through an algorithm. So it's, you know, artificial intelligence essentially that is scanning, and it's scanning like the headers that you have and the information underneath the headers and making matches to whatever keywords have been determined by the employer are relevant to the job. So what I usually recommend for the ATS is to use common terminology. So like in your headers, for example, you should write work experience, professional memberships. Like you shouldn't write it, you should write honors and awards, not like experiential accolade or something like
something weird.
Right. Don't be clever. Don't be clever. Just like be succinct. And then this is kind of a little tip. If you have something that's an acronym like BLS or ACLS, you want to include the acronym, but then also spell it out, because you don't know what has been set as the keyword. So for example, like if the job wants you to have ACLS and they've put in ACLS as the keyword, but on your resume you put advanced cardiovascular life support, it may not match.
You're out.
Exactly. And then the other thing, some of my resume templates, they come in different formats. So I have like a Google Doc and a Word and Pages version, and some of them use text boxes. So if you're using a resume template or a document that uses text boxes, you just want to save that as a PDF and make sure you're always uploading as a PDF, because the ATS programs usually can't read things that are inside text boxes in the editable version of a file. So that's like a little techie, but I usually recommend, I recommend like a PDF, or if you want to get super simple, you can do like a very plain text document and don't even worry about like the visual appearance, just like put the headers and the information below.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's tricky, but it's not, it's meant to help, it's not meant to like kill everyone off.
Right.
It's really meant to help them get the best people for them. So just keep that in mind and don't go into it as like a threat. It's just helping them, and you got to comply with that.
Yeah.
How it is.
I agree.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it for just like the general overview. Those are the most pressing questions. So maybe we can just do a demo and
sure.
See what you do.
Let me see here. All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is an example of one of my resume templates in the Google Doc version. I think I love Google Docs personally, and I think that it's the easiest platform to work with. And I love that it's like stored in the cloud and everything. So for my custom clients, I do everything in Google Docs. So if you were to purchase, this is like the exact document that you would get. So there's a little bit of an intro, a table of contents, and then here's the template itself. So I haven't made any edits. This is just how it appears. So what I do here is I prompt you and I tell you what to include. So I'll just kind of fill out a couple sections and show you if I were to edit this with my information. Let's see.
Yeah, you can already tell right off the bat. It's like, oh, this is pretty.
Yeah.
Makes you want to just like read it. Yeah.
So I have like a stupid amount of letters, but everything's editable. So like if you want that text smaller, you can, if I wanted to try to make it all in one line, I could. And then, I'd put in my contact information here. On the education side, I write Master of Science in Nursing, Yale University.
And I know this is like probably everyone knows this, but I don't think some do. You're supposed to go in reverse chronological, right?
Yes.
So some people might not know that. I don't know. But.
Yeah, you're supposed to go in reverse chronological. So if I had something that was in progress, for example, like if I was working on my Doctor of Nursing practice at, let's say I also went to Yale again, though I can't afford it, so I wouldn't unless they paid me. I could write like expected 2022 or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I like this split layout because I think it looks nice visually, and you can also fit more information because like stuff like your licenses, like it's short information, right? There's not sentences. So it's kind of a waste to use like a whole line. It's just not a good use of space. So you can see, here is a great spot for your licensure and your certifications. You would put, state of New York, and you could add your expiration date if you wanted. I don't usually recommend putting your actual license numbers on your resume. That's just
why is that?
That's a privacy thing on my part that I'm just a little bit overcautious about, because you never really know, like if you're circulating your resume on the internet somewhere, you never know where it's going to end up. And a legit employer, like it's public information, so they can go to your state board of nursing and do the license lookup and look it up if they need to like verify that you are actually licensed. So the professional profile is a section that I am really passionate about, because it's kind of your opportunity to give a little elevator pitch and say in a short few sentences, like who you are, what your experience is, and what type of value you're going to bring to the role. So I definitely recommend, like, if you're going to spend a lot of time on a section, spending it here, because you just want to give like that concise punch right off the bat, like, hey, this is why I'm your ideal
It's
client.
like, yeah, I try to tell people, like, imagine you have an inbox full of 100 resumes. Like, you're not going to sit through, like, you ideally hope that somebody's going to read every word of your resume because you're special, but you're really kind of not. So it's like your job to make yourself special to them out of 100. So this is like a perfect spot for them to just read real quick and be like, oh yeah, okay, this person's legit. Like,
definitely.
Yeah.
Because you actually, I think like the stat is like less than 15 seconds. I don't know how they studied that type of thing, but that's how long you can assume someone is going to read your resume before making a decision.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You'd fill in your job experience, you fill in the information about the job itself. I like to recommend putting some sort of context, either in a little paragraph or a bullet. And by context, I mean, some people don't know to explain like the very specifics of what type of unit they worked on. So like, especially if you're in a unit that's like not commonly titled, or a practice that doesn't make it clear that it's an outpatient setting. So you would say, provided direct patient care in an outpatient pulmonology practice or something like that, like something really specific. Like, tell me in one sentence what your role was. And then in your bullet points, rather than including things like that are assumed competencies of nurses. So, I'm going to assume that you assess patients and that you administered medications and you employed the nursing process and all that type of stuff. Like, don't waste space on reiterating that, but instead try to talk about your achievements, your accomplishments, or give really highly specific things. So, for example, if you worked in an ICU setting, talk about the different devices that you're familiar with. Talk about the types of lines that you managed, or the drips that you titrated, that type of thing, because that gives such specific context, and will really show the actual technical skills that you have. So yeah, I think that it's okay to have 2 pages if you have valuable information to include on that second page. That's a common question that I get a lot. The majority of younger, and I shouldn't say younger, I would say like earlier in their career nurses, so like nurses with fewer than 3 to 5 years of experience, for the most part, should be able to fit on 1 page. But plenty of people have enough valuable information to go onto 2 pages, and I think that that's totally fine. So what I've done here is included like the most common sections. So, if you have some publications or research or presentations that you want to include, you can include those things here. But if you don't have them, you just backspace and delete it, or you can edit it with something that's more specific to you.
Right.
Here's a matching cover letter. This is just placeholder text. So you just basically type your own information in here. This is a reference sheet. So if you have references that you want to provide, you can put their information there. And then I also include a new grad or student version in all the templates. So that's for you to include your clinical rotations if you want to do that. So I'm not sure that that's like super applicable to people applying for remote jobs. I imagine that usually remote jobs require some experience. But if for whatever reason that's applicable to you now or in the future, that is included.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah. So what questions what do you want me to go over more here in the?
I don't think, so yeah, you would finish it and basically so is this one running document, or are you supposed to like separate these out, or
yes,
like, this is it?
So this is one running document, and what I usually recommend doing is like keeping this as the master document, and then once you've finished editing it, you save each page as a PDF. So I usually just go to print.
Okay.
And usually the print will have that setting of save as a PDF. And so then I would just save pages 2 and 3.
I never thought of that. I print specific pages, but I never even thought you could save specific pages for a PDF. Wow.
Yes. So yeah, you can do anything saving as a PDF as you can printing.
Okay.
Or, what some people like to do is make a copy of the document and then like delete the extra pages. So like if you wanted a document that's just your resume, you would just go to File, make a copy of it, and then on the copy you could just like delete all these extra pages, so that the document is just those 2 pages, and then you can copy it again if you wanted one just for the cover letter, that type of thing. Like if you really felt strongly that you wanted each document like as a standalone doc, but I like to just keep it all in one place. Personally.
And then one thing it just came to me. What do you think like is the best way to save the title? Like with I usually put like my last name, first name, resume or something. I don't know if that's right, but I feel like some people, I have received resumes before and it just says resume. And I'm like, I don't know.
So
maybe you should specify it's you. I don't know.
I usually will just say Amanda Guarniere resume.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe then, everyone already does this. I don't know.
Yeah. And then for my own, like if I'm saving the editable file on my computer, like if I'm working in Microsoft Word or something, I might call it Amanda Resume 2020, because if you're using something like Word, what will happen is you'll end up having different iterations of your resume, because if you edit on the document, chances are you might like save it as a new file to kind of keep the old one. I think that's a pretty good practice, especially if you're like deleting information. So then I just usually save it as resume with the year, but still with my name, because if I need to search my computer, I have so many files that are titled resume because of other resumes that I've done that I need to save it with my own name.
And sometimes I'll have like 2 or 3 specific resumes for specific jobs, because what I do is kind of like I could fit into a couple different type of jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And when that's the case, maybe you'll have a master document and then you'll make changes on a second one. And the changes that you'll make will be definitely in this professional profile section, because you may say like looking to transition to a position in whatever, or looking to bring this skill to the, pediatric setting, or whatever you're applying for. And then you'll also kind of look through the bullets that you have for your previous jobs, and maybe you'll reorder them, or maybe you will expand on something that's highly applicable to this new job that you're applying to. But like I said at the beginning, like people want to see their ideal person like in your resume, and they want to know that you haven't just blasted your resume to every single possible job, because like nobody likes feeling that way. Like people want it to be a mutual decision, right? Like
and the bad kind of reality of my group is that everybody wants to work remotely so bad that it ends up being kind of like resume vomit. Like, with me, I want to work from home, when really that shouldn't be like your leading foot for these jobs. It really should be the actual position of what you want. Like, would you work this position at your hospital, or are you just applying to it because it's remote? Because people can read that for sure, especially if you're mentioning like, I really want to stay at home with my kids. Like, don't mention that. Like, that's not valuable to them, Mention that in the interview at the very end if they directly ask, but like, you're applying for a job, not to work from home. So that's kind of like something I like to tell people, even though obviously we all want to, just it's not about you right now. It's about them wanting you. So
yeah, I totally agree. And that's great advice, regardless of whatever job you're applying to. Like we all have our own internal motivators for making particular decisions, but that's not something that your hiring manager is going to care about or make a decision based off of.
Yeah, it even could affect you negatively, in my opinion, just from
absolutely. Yeah,
do you
there's
really
a level
care about this job, or you just want to work from home.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, well, cool. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory,
yeah,
but I sure would not create that myself. So and then you also have like a course. You can go online and look at that course and stuff.
Yeah.
You have a couple courses or just one? Or
I have a couple courses. One is called Weekend Resume Makeover, which is essentially it's tutorials from me, and it includes all the templates. And the point is to show you in a very short period of time how you can revamp your resume, in just a couple days. So it's like bite-sized screen share, kind of over-the-shoulder tutorials of me addressing different parts. So basically teaching you how to write a great resume the first time. And then the other course that I have is called the Nursing Career RX. And that is essentially like a full roadmap to the dream job system for nurses. And I'm actually working on a new iteration of that course that'll come out in the spring that's specifically for nurse practitioners. So being a nurse practitioner myself, that, population is near and dear to my heart. And so, even though we are all nurses, there are definitely some professional nuances that are different when it comes to searching for jobs, applying for jobs, and kind of becoming professionally legit, so to speak. So
my husband's a nurse practitioner, and I'm always trying to find him like little side gigs and stuff. And it's just like, this is different.
It's definitely different.
Not the same thing. So
it's definitely different. Yeah.
And then you do like more personalized stuff. It says as of right now, the February 14th, you're booked out till March-ish.
Yeah, I am fully booked right now. I will probably open up for custom services again in March, but it'll probably be a limited number, to be honest, because unfortunately there's only so much time in my day. And while I love doing that, right, exactly. And what I really love more is being able to provide free content. I have a YouTube channel, I have a blog, I have lots and lots of free information, and I can't do that as much as I would like to if I'm always working on custom things. So I'm trying to find that balance.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Okay, this is so awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to just give them a little bit of how to find you, just like what I know, if you want to add anything.
Sure.
Her website is theresumerx.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I heard again from stalking that your biggest following is on Instagram. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's at the Resume RX as well. Okay.
Yes.
And then I don't know if there's other outlets you prefer to share with them.
No, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I have a YouTube channel, but I put all the videos on my blog, so you can find them there. I am on Facebook also at the Resume RX, but I spend most of my time on Instagram, and that's where most of my free content lives. So, and then a shout out for you, because you are an affiliate of my courses and my templates, meaning that, everyone who kind of goes through your link or your coupon code will get a discount. And then Sadie also gets like a small commission at no cost to the customer. But yeah. So if you go to my website, theresumerx.com/remote, that's a way to get to things. But also if you're ever like on my website on a checkout page and you put in the coupon code remote, that'll get you 20% off. And it'll also give Sadie some credit for the purchase. So
yeah, I'm trying to do more of this because it's like I spend so much time on this website, but I don't want to be blasting out random ads or charging people to go on my website. I don't even really necessarily want to charge companies that much. So it's like I feel like this is the best way to get people services they're asking for already, and then it can kind of help me a little bit sustain the website. So
yeah, absolutely.
Be like, this is great.
in the vein of working,
send me Google ads, thank you.
Right, exactly. I hate Google. There are no ads on my
page. I tried AdSense one day and I was like, delete. this is
Yeah.
awful.
But, you know, like we are working from home too, right? Like you are working remotely, I'm working remotely for ourselves as our businesses. And we both provide so much free information because that's what we want to do. But in order for it to be a sustainable business, you know, we both have to also make some money. And so this is kind of a good way. That's why my templates are so low cost. If I didn't even mention that, but the resume template bundle, which is like all 6 of my templates plus an ATS training, actually, it's just $27 for all that, which is
awesome.
really, really reasonable, I think. And what that does is that allows me to spend my time making, you know, free content and putting out free information that people don't have to pay for. So.
It's like what I see it as is I put out so much free stuff, and it's kind of like you got to do the work of finding it and reading it and reviewing it, and eventually, you know, that takes time. So paid services are more like, here, let me just shove it in your head for you and do it. And
exactly. Exactly.
So it works out both ways. So I'm super happy to do this. This is really exciting. So I think a lot of people will be happy with it too, because they're always asking me. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. So but thank you so much.
Of course.
I will keep doing this, and hopefully a lot of people want to get your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And anyone can always reach out to me with questions or that type of thing. So.
All right. Yeah, I'll link all your stuff, and it'll be good.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sadie.
All right. Thanks.